Yay Networks.
Welcome back to In the Cards and Stars. I'm your host, Madrid Mogensen. In this episode, I'm going to tell you guys what you need to know about Cancer season. Then we're going to talk about some trends. We have a couple of planets retrograde that are going to be retrograde through just about the end of the year. And so this is going to be a big shift in July. We're going to all start to really feel it. So we're going to talk about what that means for you, how to use the energy and not be like blindsided by it. And then we are going to do a quick reading. Khloe Kardashian, we're going to look at her chart because she just had a birthday. And I saw a quote, I think it was on like E-News. She talked about how her 30s were so terrible for her that she just can't wait to turn 40. And her friends even gave her like some gifts that had like the middle finger, and 39. She just turned 39. So we're going to look at her chart and see what's been going on and see if we can get to like the bottom of this. Like, why is this Cancer queen struggling? But before that, if you guys have a little beverage, this is our happy hour. I got a little champagne. I'm going to take a sip, then we're going to get into it. Okay, so Cancer season, what you need to know, the do's and don'ts, how to plan your season. First of all, Cancer season runs from June 21st through July 22nd. I always like to mark that on my calendar just so I know when things switch over. After that, we get into Leo season, and we'll meet back here to discuss what you need to know about that. Okay, it's going to be a totally different vibe. But Cancer season is a really sweet time. Now, Cancers get an interesting reputation for being kind of like closed off, but I've got to say, every Cancer that I know is actually very easy to talk to. And when we get into a new season, we really see that like our interactions, things that are occurring in our lives day to day, they do take on the energy of Cancer season. We're just kind of inspired to shift into kind of like a Cancerian mindset. And so I will say, even though people get a little bit of a reputation for being standoffish, Cancer is the crab, they're in their little shell. This is a time where if you take the time to go within, to communicate more about your feelings, get vulnerable, you'll see that it's actually not so bad, and you will feel 1,000 pounds lighter by the time we get to Leo season when you're going to want to party. So, okay, during Cancer season, this is when our fourth house is highlighted because in astrology, the Cancer zodiac sign rules the fourth house. This is a general thing for everybody. So that means you may be getting the feeling that you want to kind of stay home. Fun fact, the United States, because our Independence Day is on the 4th, the United States is actually a 4 energy Cancer. Okay. So it's like the US has a Cancer vibe. But this is a time, and this is why we have Independence Day, where you get together with your family. This is a time when you might feel more motivated to be around family, close friends, people that make you feel at home. The Cancer zodiac sign is associated with the mother and nurturing. So if you want to stay home a little more, don't try to push yourself. This would be a time where you want to listen to your body. You want to say, all right, maybe I will let myself take a bath tonight and watch a Hallmark movie. That's just what I do when I'm stressed. Instead of pushing myself to go hit the gym late at night and then feel exhausted. This is a time when we want to find our balance by going within. So Cancer is also associated with the moon in the tarot. The moon card is known as the Cancer card. And the moon is so interesting because, as we know, the moon controls the tides, and we tend to sync like our cycles. If you're a woman listening, your cycle will sync, or you will find that your energy will ebb and flow. People always say, like, hey, the full moon is when, the police are the busiest. And that's because our energy, our emotions surge at a full moon. And all of this is very Cancer. So what I like to tell people to do during Cancer season is to slow down. If you want to journal, get a little journaling practice. You may want to do some baking. You may want to cook for your family, cook for yourself. This is just a time to kind of pamper yourself and do the things that make you feel loved. It's just all self-love vibes. And then you want to invite your nearest and dearest around. You want to tell people how much you care about them, because we're also all more in our moon signs right now. So, we have our big three, our sun, moon, and rising. Well, during Cancer season, kind of a fun fact, because the moon rules the season, we naturally tend to embody more of our moon sign than our sun sign, and even than our rising sign. During this time, we really do kind of shift into our deepest, most emotional selves. And if we allow that to just happen, and we start to like ask ourselves, because your moon sign is going to tell you what you need. It's going to tell you what makes you happy. It's going to tell you how you feel safe. And really like what you're looking for in your deepest, closest relationships. So if you listen to that, I'll use myself as an example. I have a Scorpio moon. I mean, it can be a little intense in here. It's a little emotional. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll bypass my feelings, maybe during every other season of the zodiac wheel. But during Cancer season, I do listen to myself more. And I do start to ask myself questions like, okay, is there anything that I want to change? Is there something that'd be more fulfilling? Should I be, trying out a new hobby or setting more boundaries? And I found that every time I do that, I'm able to make those habits stick throughout the rest of the year. So tuning into your moon sign, finding out what is it that my moon sign needs to be happy, to feel loved, and how can I make little shifts to give that to myself, to be my own parent, to be my own mother. It's like this is when we can really do that reparenting, and it's actually super healthy and it feels really nice. It sounds intense, but it feels really, really nice. So, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some fun things you can do to pump up all of the little, the sexy vibes, because Cancer is also a water sign. So, they're a little bit sexy. We're going to talk about that, some style tips, and we will keep the fun going. Okay, so some fun things to know about Cancer season. This is also one of the seasons when we're most psychic. So, fun fact about water signs. And if you're a water sign, if you have that in your big three, you know this already, I'm sure. You're probably the friend that will be like, oh my gosh, I have a feeling about something, or I just had deja vu, or I dreamed this. And then, like, it happens. I literally have a friend who will dream things and then it will happen. She's one to call for advice for sure. But if you have one of these water signs in your big three, you naturally are a little bit more psychic. And that is something really cool about Cancer season, is that the veil gets a little thinner. So not only are you tuning into your emotions and honoring your feels, it's like you're getting to like some divine goddess energy, let yourself flow more. You also can really tap into that intuition. So if you've ever wanted to like read tarot cards or get more into astrology, which you probably do if you're listening to this, challenge yourself, do some little intuitive games. It's also a good time to do like writing. Like you can do, some people call it automatic writing. I just call it like asking yourself questions, where you sit down with a journal and you think of like the things that are kind of stumping you or causing you stress. And you ask the question, you write it down, and then you just write whatever comes to your mind. It can be crazy, it can be on point, like you just free write. I definitely think that that's when we tap into our subconscious, when we take the pressure off, we tap into that intuition, that subconscious self. And this is a really good time to do things like that, because you'll see that it's going to be coming through. Style wise, the mermaid core trend has just been everywhere. I've been following it. I love fashion and I've been following this trend, and it's really been around for a couple of years, but it started to surge like on the runways, especially with the Little Mermaid movie. It's funny how fashion does follow a lot of popular film. After this, if you want to head over to my Mermaid Core Revolve list, because I work with them as an ambassador, and I picked out like just amazing, amazing looks. So anything, if you want to get that look, anything that is like the Cancer season lucky colors, blues, teals, seafoam green, pearlescent white, anything that has like a shine or like a sheen that reminds you of something that is like a wet look, like something that could have come out of the ocean, stunning. Also, if you want to go literal with it, there are a lot of clothes right now, they're at like embellished. They have starfish, shells, pearls, really allowing yourself to embrace your inner goddess, channel the mermaid within. It's so much fun. And you really can allow yourself to just kind of go off, go off on one, dress up, have fun, make it a thing. So that is a really fun thing to do with Cancer season. I shall be doing that for sure. And then makeup wise, shimmery, any aquatic colors, same thing. You really want to look kind of like wet and dewy, which I feel like is very in right now. A lot of cream formulas. So anyway, that's very Cancer season. So lean into that. And then let's talk about some of the transits happening. Now, these are some big transits, but they do have a positive potential. I've seen a lot of astrologers, a lot of like websites talking about some of like the negative or like the scary things about these transits, because right now we do have Neptune and Saturn both retrograde in Pisces, a fellow water sign. So, it's a little intense, but I do think that these are there's a potential for like positive karma. So here's how to work with it and how to know like what does this mean for you in your natal chart. All right, so let's look first at Saturn. We all heard of like the Saturn return. Saturn is that disciplinarian. Saturn is the planet that comes in and helps you to make concrete choices. It's like that coach that's wanting to like make you your best self, but you might have to do like a million burpees and it might feel absolutely horrible in the moment. And then you're so glad you did it. It's like that. That is the energy. But what's interesting about this, we have Saturn in Pisces retrograde from June 17th through November 4th. Now, when Saturn goes retrograde, as opposed to going forward, and I think a lot of astrologers that are like talking about how they're freaked out about it, I think that maybe they're not remembering this, or maybe, I don't know, maybe there's just differing opinion. But when a planet goes retrograde, the energy changes. So instead of looking for things that are external that are going to cause challenge for you, Saturn energy, those challenges that make us grow, that stops. So it's actually, I like that. It's like, okay, that's great. It actually forces you instead to go within and things calm down enough to where you can go within and you can actually ask yourself, okay, what lessons have I learned? It's like more of a time to be contemplative. You can just kind of think about your Saturn return back to those themes. Where do you have Saturn in your birth chart? If you use astrocharts.com, it's a free website, click whole sign houses for settings and scroll down. Which house at the bottom, it'll tell you which house has Saturn in it. That will give you an idea of where you had your Saturn return and the main themes and lessons in your life that you are here to learn. It's where your challenges are, but where your rewards are as well. And when Saturn goes retrograde, it's like we get to check back in on that. It's like, okay, how much have I progressed towards this potential for being really successful in this part of my life? Where am I still having some issues? So there's really not going to be anything that is going to cause challenge. It's more about using this time to understand where in your life you want to continue to overcome things and like setting up those goals for yourself. And when Saturn goes direct again, November 4th, I think if you did the work right now, instead of just kind of like being like, oh, nothing's happening, I'm just going to chill and like, just kind of, I don't know, like F off the assignment. If you don't do that, and if you actually take the time to look at your chart and kind of, spend a little me time thinking it through, when Saturn goes direct again in November, I really do think that we're going to see positive karma. So that part of your life will get a glow up. And I'm telling you, when Saturn gives you positive karma, when Saturn brings a glow up, this is not something that is temporary. This is something that is like long lasting. Saturn sets things up for the long haul. It's like something that can never be taken away from you. So you can trust it. I love it. And what we're going to do after this is we're going to look at Khloe Kardashian's birth chart. We're going to find out what's going on with her for Saturn and like why she had such hardship. So we can, hopefully she'll listen. We can give her a little positive encouragement. Okay. So anyway, Neptune. Neptune is also retrograde in Pisces, June 30th through December 6th. So you're already feeling this as well. And you want to do the same thing here. You want to pull up your chart, whole sign houses, scroll to the bottom where it has all of the houses and like the rulers, and find out which house is ruled by Pisces for you. Also, you might want to take a look at where Neptune is in your chart. But when Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, which is its natural home, it's stronger. And I think that might be why people are a little freaked out about it. However, the cool thing about Neptune is that when Neptune is direct, it's all about like glamour and illusion. So if you imagine watching like an amazing, like old Hollywood film, like something that comes to mind is like Casablanca. My mom used to love that film. When you watch that, you're kind of like swept up, right? It's not really realistic, but you're swept away. And then maybe for the next day or so, you're just like thinking about this dreamy movie and like the possibilities for your life. And maybe like your life feels like a movie for a second. That's Neptune in Pisces when it's direct. So it's amazing. It's glamorous. It's exciting and beautiful and dreamy. It provides an escape from the real world. However, it's not real, right? It's like pretty soon you're like, okay, you wake up and you're like, it can almost cause more stress because you're like, well, why isn't my life like this movie? When the planet Neptune goes retrograde in Pisces, all of those illusions fall away and we kind of wake up to the realities of our life. And the cool thing about that, especially with Saturn also retrograde, is I think if we use this period of time, again, just to reiterate for Neptune, June 30th through December 6th, if you want to put that on your calendar, if we use this period of time to embrace the things that we're learning, embrace our realizations, and accept that maybe some of the past that we were on or some things going on in our lives, especially in the Pisces ruled area of your chart, they aren't really long lasting and it might not be what we really want anymore. It might not be real. If we realize that and make the changes, we can actually create something in our lives that is long lasting and super fulfilling on like a real level. So it's really cool. I don't think that anything major is going to be happening. Like I feel like the energy of this summer is pretty docile, even with even with the retrograde of Venus and Leo, which we'll talk about in Leo season. But even with that, towards the end of the summer, I feel like this is a pretty chill summer, which is just kind of meant to give us an opportunity to breathe, to go be by water. If you're not going to be by water, take a little bath, light a candle. This is a time to really come home to ourselves. And I love that. So I hope that we all like take the time to rest and chill. And if you do have like realizations or things that you want to change, this would be a good time to start making like setting those goals and like making the changes for yourself, especially after Mars enters Virgo on July 10th. So, but we want to do it in a gentle way because Virgo can be kind of critical and kind of like I'm a Virgo. And whenever I get like way too into something or anxious about something, I'm like, my Virgo's showing. I got to relax, pull back. So that's on the negative side. But on the positive side, there can be clarity, there can be purity, there can be a way to do this where you're using all of that focus that Virgo brings. And with Mars, the planet of action and inspiration and passion, with that in Virgo, there's really nothing that you can't change or handle once Mars enters Virgo on July 10th. So I would say, see what comes up, let yourself be a little floaty, a little dreamy, and then use this time to maybe make little changes, make little tweaks in your schedule, do things that are concrete though, because it can be a time when I don't know, you don't want to get like too swept away because Cancer season is a beautiful time to tap into yourself. But I think that Mars entering Virgo will help us stay balanced. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you want your time to chill and you want your time to also make sure you're progressing and making the most of the opportunities, especially with like those retrograde planets, like I just said. Okay, so I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm about to go on a vacation. So I'm like, yes, let's retrograde everything. And I'm just going to lay on a boat. Okay. So that's where I'm at. And I hope that you guys find your sweet spot in all of that that's happening as well. Okay. Let's switch gears now. We're going to talk a little bit about Khloe Kardashian. I love to do a celebrity birth chart reading. Okay. So Khloe Kardashian. Now we all know Khloe's had a few rough years, and she is one to tell the truth. And if we look at her birth chart, I'm just going to run through her birth chart for you guys so you can know. Because I always feel like it's easiest to learn also about how different planets play out in people's charts when you have like a good example. So, okay, let's look at Khloe's chart. So she has her sun in Cancer, her moon in Gemini, just like our fabulous producer Riley, her Mercury in Cancer, her Venus in Cancer, her Mars in Scorpio, and Jupiter in Capricorn, Saturn in Scorpio. Okay, we're getting a little intense there, but let's move to her North Node in Gemini, which is her purpose. So she is here to communicate. She's here to be a communicator, to share information, but she also has her Chiron in Gemini, which if you guys have been here for a little bit, you know that Chiron is the wounded healer in our birth charts. It's where we have our greatest wound, but where we're here to overcome. And so it can become our greatest strength with practice and with a lot of like love and patience. So I actually also have my Chiron and Gemini in the fifth house, just like her. So I feel you, girl. That's probably why I was like, we got to help this woman. But she's kind of been through it. Her ascendant is Aquarius, and all Aquarius ascendants or Aquarius sun signs listening, there's been a lot of Saturn happening in your charts. And this is such a good example of what happens when Saturn finally goes retrograde and we get the good karma. So if you have Aquarius in your big three, including Khloe, I know you've been through a lot, honey. It's been kind of intense. Saturn has been right there, just riding it out through Aquarius. So you've been feeling a lot of pressure, probably. You've been feeling like this is a time to like grow up in a certain part of your life, Even if you thought like, I'm already grown up, like I've done this, new challenges came up. It was like trying to really, Saturn was trying to push home all of those lessons so that we can move to a new level in our maturity and in what we're here to accomplish in life. So for her, I think she really went through a big push while Saturn was in Aquarius for the past, like I'd say like 2.5 years. So it was a lot. So I can definitely see why she said that, the past few years were a lot and that she was ready to turn 40. She was like, I'm over my 30s. It's been too much. But if we look at what's going on for her right now, I actually put all of her information into a computer program that I have. And I was reading last night about what it said for where she's at right now in her life. And she actually has a really beautiful, uh, what was it? What was the aspect? There's an aspect right now. I think it's her sun trine. What was it? Ooh, I'm not going to pull it up just because the gist of it is this, though. It's like her sun trine Saturn. So something's going on with her in her chart where now she's starting just now to reap the benefits of all of that Saturn activity. And I'm going to make a prediction that once we get a little bit into the fall and Saturn starts to go direct again, we are going to see that she's going to start to really reap the rewards of whatever was going on in her life. So that means a love life glow up. She does have Saturn in her 10th house of career, conjunct Mars. So it's like when you have planets that are conjunct, it really does kind of link the energy. And Mars is a very intense planet of, drive, and it's a warrior planet. So to have that with Saturn, that's someone that's going to have a lot of intense lessons that they're going to need a lot of strength to push through. And I think we've really seen that. I wanted to also look at her fifth and seventh houses, like dating and love, and then her partnership house. So if we look at her fifth house of like love and dating, this is where she has Chiron. And that kind of explains like why she's had some serious issues in the love department with people that she hasn't been married to, but that she's had like a lot of intense emotional feelings. She's been very excited about her relationship with Tristan, but actually, wait, no, Lamar Odom. Never mind. Even someone that she was married to. She's had, she's just been in the press a lot for everyone kind of just feels bad for her, right? They're like, oh my gosh, she keeps getting with these guys who do these things publicly that are just so just destructive and so hurtful. And we see that she's kind of hardened a little bit. But what we also see is that she's starting to come into her Gemini North Node, healing that Gemini Chiron placement. And so I think what we're going to see, especially once Saturn, that planet of karma, goes direct again in November, I think we're really going to see her come out with something where she's either going to start changing the way that she talks about things, she's going to be even more vocal about issues that are important to women. I think that that is just part of her purpose, is to go through these things so that she can be in the public eye and share. And it'll be interesting to see that happen. But when you do have your North Node conjunct Chiron and the moon, that's like a ton of feeling in that fifth house of love and dating. So that means really her hardest lessons are going to be in that part of her chart. So if you ever want to look at your birth chart and see like, where am I learning my hardest lessons? Look at Saturn and look at Chiron. And you're immediately going to be like, okay, yeah, I get that. Because it's so crazy when we get the confirmation. But it's also kind of comforting in a way. You're like, okay, I can overcome this. So that's what's going on for her. But I do think that there's just going to be a really huge change for her. Her seventh house starts in Leo, which I could see her with a Leo, but it has to be a very evolved Leo, because Leos are, they can be very loving. We'll talk about this next in a future episode when we get to Leo season, but they can be very loving, but they can also be kind of narcissistic. So I think she has to be careful of that. But her seventh house is meant to be full of that loving, big energy. So I think we'll see that, but it won't be until after Saturn goes direct in November. That's my prediction. So hang in there, girl. And, at least she is really learning from these lessons. I don't see her as the same person that she was before all of this happened. I think she's gained a lot of confidence after kind of losing her confidence. Yeah, I binge watched like the last season of Kardashians last weekend. So that's why I'm also like very, very much wanting to talk about this. But yeah, I see her going through her emotional and spiritual glow up in the next year. And yeah, she's probably right. Her 40s probably will be just amazing. Okay, you guys. Well, That's it for Cancer season. I hope that you feel more prepared to make your summer plans. You give yourself a little bit of grace and you make the most of all of like just the energies and opportunities that we have. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe because we drop a new episode every single week. And I don't want you guys to miss out on what the stars have in store for you. I will see you next week. Enjoy your Cancer season.